Hey everyone, this is D&D Lounge with another episode of How to Use D&D Spells, a series where I cover spells from the 5th edition of Dungeons & Dragons. I look at some of the spell's most common uses, answer a few rules questions, and give my opinion on how good a spell is and who it's for. Today I'm covering Animal Friendship, a spell that makes it much easier to make furry friends during your adventures. Here's the spell's description and the classes who can cast it. Animal Friendship forces a beast with an intelligence score under 4 to make a wisdom saving throw. If it fails, the animal is convinced that the caster means it no harm, and it's also charmed by the caster. The effect ends early if the caster or their allies attack the target. The spell can also be upcast to target additional creatures. For reference, here's what the charm condition does. The charmer has advantage on social ability checks and is unable to be attacked by the charmed creature. That's the basics of how Animal Friendship works, but what can you do with it in-game? Well, one popular way players use this spell is for getting past guard dogs. Using Animal Friendship before approaching guard dogs, or whatever beast is being used as a guard, is a good way to make sure they don't alert their masters. After quietly approaching, you can then try to convince them to allow you and your party to pass. Or you can talk them into leaving their post entirely, for example with the promise of food or the threat of other intruders on site. Another common use of Animal Friendship is for riding new mounts. Having advantage on your checks to calm down horses or other mountable beasts and keep them from getting spooked as you hop on their back is huge. Just remember that Animal Friendship doesn't instantly train the target. If they're not used to being ridden, they might be a somewhat unreliable mount. Use number 3 for this spell is gaining allies. The relationship that Animal Friendship helps foster doesn't have to be limited to the spell's duration. Just like any other NPC, a beast can be influenced through roleplay and skill checks. This can, in turn, lead to helpful favors, hints, or even a long-term pet. Just don't expect an actual combat-ready ally. That's encroaching on Beastmaster Ranger territory. Another common use for this spell is for talking your way out of fights, with role-playing. If you find yourself face-to-face with a hostile beast, Animal Friendship might be able to get you out of danger. To be clear, the charm condition won't protect your allies from attack. However, most DMs will allow you to plead your case if you spend a first-level spell slot on Animal Friendship. The key is thinking of an appropriate role-playing reason why the beast should leave you and your allies alone. Maybe a den mother bear can be persuaded that you mean no harm to its cubs. Or an alligator can be convinced to point you in the direction of the bandits if you promise to feed them the bandit bodies when you're done. But for most of this to work, you're going to need the help of another spell, which brings me to my final tip. Pair Animal Friendship with Speak with Animals. Putting these two spells together is very impactful. Most importantly, it gets around the awkwardness of communicating via pantomime and sound effects, allowing you to get across slightly more complex ideas. Plus, it can be cast as a ritual, barring rangers, if you've got time to spare, so you don't need to waste time or 2 spell slots to make this combination work. If you're interested in more permanent ways of speaking with animals, there's also the Beast Eldritch Invocation, which any class can pick up via the Eldritch Adept feat. Circle of the Shepherd Druids can also permanently speak with animals, and Forest Gnomes can always kind of talk to small woodland critters. Those are some of the most common uses and tips for using Animal Friendship. I'm sure players have plenty of other great stories involving the spell, but for now, let's answer a few common rules questions. Number 1, does Animal Friendship protect my party? On its own, no. The charm condition only protects the charmer from being attacked, not their allies. That said, most DMs will allow for the caster to attempt role-playing and or skill checks to protect their friends from being mauled. Question number 2, is there a challenge rating limit on Animal Friendship targets? No. Even the most fearsome beast in the game is a valid target for this spell, provided that their intelligence is 3 or lower. Question number 3, can I gain permanent allies with Animal Friendship? The answer is yes, certainly. However, it's not exactly the spell that does this for you. It's how you use the charm condition to your advantage to create a good first impression. After that, the animal will need a reason to stick around, just like any other NPC. Rule number 4, what skill checks do I use for Animal Friendship? Animal handling is the most relevant skill in most circumstances, however other skills might come up. For instance, some situations might call for a persuasion check. If you're trying to remember something about the beast's lore, the DM might ask for a nature check. This is also a likely circumstance for the variant rule for using skills with different abilities. For example, a wisdom persuasion check or a charisma animal handling check. So what's the verdict? Is Animal Friendship a good spell? My answer is no, at least it's not a good spell on its own. You need other tools like the ability to speak with animals to influence beasts in specific ways. Otherwise, you'll frequently feel frustrated by the spell's limited ability. That said, if you have a kind DM, you enjoy role-playing, and your character likes befriending animals, then this is a great spell to have. You'll find the out-of-combat utility satisfying and memorable, and who knows, you might even save your party from an unnecessary fight due to a silly misunderstanding with a hungry predator. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you found this guide on animal friendship helpful. If you have any stories about using animal friendship in your own Dungeons & Dragons game, please share them in the comments below. This is D&D Lounge wishing you the best of luck in your next spellcasting venture.